Coach's Corner. What's the top one thing? Top two, top three max, right?
It's so funny. I rewatched that our Passion podcast.
Yeah.
And that's how we started was, just reverse engineer it. If you hit the lottery tomorrow, what would you do with your time?
Yeah.
And I'm getting the same glimpse of that right now with like, what's worth your time doing, right? If we have so many options, going back to the kid in the candy store and the adult in the liquor shop and the bar, then you can have anything, right? So um, sometimes the power of choice is the greatest blessing, but it can also work against us because that's where procrastination comes in. Complexity is the enemy of execution. If we don't have any clarity on what we're going to do, then when you're in that moment, it can almost be worse than if you were busy, right? Free time can be a curse if you don't know what you're doing to use it.
Yeah. It really can. Boredom, like it's certainty, too much certainty, right? Boredom, apathy. Lose it, use it or lose it. Go down that road.
Mm-hmm. So how does this relate to our January conversation, execution?
uh, where are we? Like, where is everyone? I think that's so it relates mostly as to check in. Where are we? But really, what we're talking about now is the hard part, or maybe not the hard part, maybe the missed part. Because planning, all right, set some stuff out, get some awareness, decide what you want, execution, start taking action towards what you want. And the step we're in now is consistently execute, or as we would call it, Pro Advisor Coach, achievement stage. That's the part that I think most people miss, is that consistency of the action that gets you to your result. It's easy to develop. People know that you can develop a plan. You need to have a goal and you need to have a plan. So there's some sort of awareness in setting a goal, and there's an acceptance that you need a plan. And if you don't do anything with the plan, then it won't get done. But then it needs to be that continuous, consistent execution of that, doing those small things. I had a person I had a couple of calls with, like super cool guy, moved to the Charlotte area here last year, and just really open, just like great rapport, and focusing on creating a business, real estate business. And he sent me an email saying, like, I don't want to waste any more time. Like, I've really got a lot of value out of the last couple of conversations we've had. Here are my two biggest distinctions. And they were both kind of on the same vein, but in the sense they said, I've just figured out I've got to stop analyzing things, and I've got to start doing things. I've got to start executing. And that was awesome. Fantastic, like great distinctions, awareness. That's such a big shift for sure. And that's the most dangerous part where he is right now. I've got it figured out. All I need to do is do it. Yeah. That is what you need to do. It's the consistent execution over the long term. That's what gets you there.
Why do you say it's dangerous?
Because you think you're done. Like, I figured it all out. I got it. I'm good.
Yeah, there's a balance with having that mindset and not stacking too much on top. So I've been coaching somebody in the month of January who maybe wants to change their dials at this point. And it's like, well, you got to give it the time for the results to come through, because it's the consistency over time that yields results. We know that, right? So it's almost staying within yourself, because he's used to the dials by now. We're 4 weeks in, been executing. And not that it's easy, but it's like a routine now. So it's maybe getting boring, and we have this temptation to stack on top of that. But if we stay really clear with our goal for the year, we know that we just have to execute in Q1 for this little thing, and be great at it. Like keep it simple, because being great at those simple things will yield something else that you can build upon after. I'm worried that we might not be able to build on it right now. So you want to have that balance of giving it that space to execute, but not kind of knowing that you haven't figured it out. Maybe you'll revisit at the end of the quarter.
Yeah. It kind of, it breeds apathy, doesn't it? Because it's like, what's the law here, or the bias? It's like, I'm used to it. I got it. I've got it figured out. Like it's not exciting anymore. It's like I don't worry about it. It's all figured out. Like I've got it. There we are. But it's that. Have you ever had a conversation with someone where someone close to you, and you're like, okay, what? It's an important subject. Like, okay, well, there's nothing to do now. This is our decision. We will come back and revisit this in a month's time. And then you're like, that's what was settled in my head. And then you come back to talk about it in a month's time, and you're expecting to lift off exactly where you left, and that other person is a completely different place, because their brain has just gone in all those different all those different areas, right? When you give the space, your mind wanders, because if it's not something you're doing all the time, then your mind does that, right? Your mind is just like constantly moving to different places. If your job was to lay bricks, build a wall, and you did nothing but lay in bricks and build a wall for a month, you would not lose sight of it, because you'd be doing it all the time. But if your job was to lay bricks and build the wall, you only had 2 hours a week to do it. There's 166 other hours in the week that you've got to not think about that. So lots of opportunities to pull you away from it. So I think that part is easy to like take you to a completely different place and forget why you're doing it in the first place.
Yeah. All right. If you ask 3 different bricklayers why they're laying brick, the first one might say he's building a wall or a house. The second one might say, so a family can live there. And a third one might say that, this is a reliable structure in the neighborhood of a community that's going to bring people together. And I think it's the purpose that you attach yourself to that gets you through those boring times, or the consistent times. Like just knowing that that's where you belong, that's what you belong doing, because in the greater good, it's those simple things that make that difference.
Right. And that's what we have to do as coaches, right? Like this is why coaches are so important, is to remind yourself of that all the time. Like that will get you to start. But if you don't continuously see that every single week, go, oh yeah, this is this is right. I'm motivated by this. This is the right thing. Then it will dissipate.
Well, think about the one person where you don't show up for. It's the equivalent of us, having a poor customer service experience. I don't know, online or over the phone, and maybe that person just had an off day or an off call. It's the same with us. Like think of the effects or the ripple effects that has in that person's life. Like they're counting on us to bring them up, to bring their well-being up, their mindset to a place of resourcefulness, to where they can show up for their business and their people and the people that they have to provide for. So it's staying true to that too, that being attached to the purpose, right? It's the same example of the bricklayer. Knowing that it's important. Every brick is important, every single brick.
Yeah. And if you're focusing on the bricks, then the wall will build itself. It's like once that's falling in love with the process as well.
Yeah.
If you don't need the motivation of the outcome. If you're already in love with the purpose, you do it because you do it, not because what you get. It's like who you're becoming while you're doing it, regardless of how it comes out.
Yeah, and the outcome just becomes the victory lap. Take a lap, enjoy it.
Okay. And he's like, oh, okay. We're here. Oh, cool. Let's keep going. Right. Yeah. Just an acknowledgement, which is important, but it's just an acknowledgement.
Yeah. So I got a question for you, Coach. So the evolution of the plan was execution. What's the evolution of execution? And maybe you already answered. Maybe it's the consistency, but what's beyond execution?
Yeah. What word does it for you, right? It's what's beyond execution. I guess execution can feel final, right? Like
No pun intended.
it's executed, right? Exactly. Yeah. Head off, done. But it's the execution is not an act; it's a process.
Mm.
I think that's what it is. So it's the consistency to execute, or executing in a rhythm, or executing in a way that is continuous. Like, is that back to that process, back to the progress, progressive execution, perhaps. That's what the progressive execution equals achievement.
Mm. Where does feedback come in? At what point do we go back to the awareness stage? Right, AAA approach: awareness, action, achievement. We're in achievement, executing. At what point does it make sense to go back to that awareness?
Yeah, and what's interesting as well, and it's interesting to share this with clients as we're giving them the framework of how we're working together, is there is a cycle, and there's the macro and micro versions of it as well. Because in one sense, we're always coming back to the awareness. Where are you today? Oh, everything went wrong. I had a terrible week. I had someone say this morning. I've already been up this morning early. It was 8 o'clock. I've already been up and it's raining outside. We're back to awareness. We're back to coaching. And then as we can get through the awareness, we can start back to the plan again. Or, okay, where do we need to go? Where's your dials here? And then the achievement part is not in that call, not in that time. Okay, we need to get back to that action plan. And I think, like, big part of coaching is meeting people where they are. We've always got to start where they are. And if we spend the whole time working on something that wasn't intended, that's okay, because we can't work on the thing that's intended until we address what's there.
Mm-hmm.
That happened to me today as well. We're working on new dials for a client, and we spent 25 minutes going over the fact that what he'd set out, or what had been set out for him for the company, he didn't believe it was achievable. Like, we're not going to spend time putting dials together and lead actions for something that you don't believe is possible.
That's part of the SMART, right? The A in the SMART goal is attainable.
Right. And so it's more important in that situation to work on the awareness of who do you need to have a conversation with to share that this isn't possible here. And you're doing it from a place of ownership, because you don't want to wait another 2 months to the end of the quarter to then share it with other people to say you didn't do it. Let's do it now. Save 2 months. So we're always coming back to the awareness, especially the awareness, and then it's back to the action plan. Okay, cool. Is the achievement working? Are we in that cycle, whether we're going away and taking action, coming back and seeing progress? If we're not, then there's something in the awareness we need to go to and stay there, or there's something in the awareness we need to go to and then back to the action plan. It's just, where do we need to be right now? Have we got enough resourcefulness from the awareness to move to the action plan stage? If not, we'll stay in the awareness. That's right.
Yeah. So maybe that's the challenge for anybody who watches this. Just do a little check-in with yourself. Where are you? We're a month into 2021. We hopefully worked on our goals at the end of 2020 to achieve in 2021. So how's it going? Where are you at? Where are you at in that process? Awareness, action, achievement. Maybe half a foot in each one, but what's more so than the others? How is achievement going? How's the action plan? Where are you? In those two, which I would equate to awareness. Just head on a swivel. 1 month in, any reassessment needed? What's a way you can dial up the execution, or are you right where you need to be and just keep showing up and perform? I love the we use the adage, form, storm, norm, perform, right, coach? Form a plan, knowing it's not going to be perfect. There's a storm coming. We just got to weather it. Eventually, we'll come out to a norm of our activities that we know greatly increase our chances of accomplishing our goals. Perform, execute. It's that last one.
Right. Yeah. And thanks, coach, for that, because it's so important to remember. It's not how do we avoid the storm, it's the storm is coming. Just do what you need to do to be aware that it's there and to keep going. Like, in fact, if there is no storm, it probably means it's too easy. You're not doing something worthwhile.
The storm is where growth comes from. So embrace the storm, welcome it, seek the storm. If you're in
storm,
seek the storm. Sunny pastures, like that's easy. That's going to get boring. It's great because the storm makes you appreciate the sunny weather.
right?
You got to get back to the sunny weather, but you'll enjoy the sunny weather more because you will have acquired another skill, or you will have overcome an obstacle that will make that sunny weather feel even better.
Yeah, because you'll see things you didn't see before.
Right.
Because your perspective's different and you got more clarity. We've got more depth, or both.
Clarity it's a word that keeps coming up, right? How important is clarity? Talk about that for a second.
It always comes up, right? Because it's always required. You can't execute on something that's not clear, right? It's like,
give an example. You got an example?
Yeah. If you can't see something, how do you know which buttons? If you can't see the buttons, how do you know which button to hit? Right? You got a display for. I'm thinking about like an old James Bond movie, in a room full of with the computers and desks full of buttons and stuff, and like they're all these buttons and they all do these different things and they're all like flashing and stuff. And it's like, all I've got is this big fist. I've got this big glove, and all I can do is, I can punch, but I'm going to hit all the buttons. I've got no clarity. I've got no precision. I need to have just need a pen tip so I can press the one I want. Like, if you press them all and you get a result, you're like, well, which one worked? I don't know. I pressed them all. If you don't get a result, you're like, well, which one doesn't work? I don't know. I pressed them all. It's being precise around that and knowing, and sometimes clarity is just knowing that you just deciding that you've got it. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to step. This is where I'm going to decide that this is clear for me right now. And this is what I'm going to do. It's not something that someone gives you.
Yeah, that's key right there. Like, because we wait for clarity to find us. We can be the biggest creators of clarity by just making a decision. I think too often we wait for the perfect decision, right? Or the perfect time to make a decision. It's never perfect. It's never perfect. It's a great lesson because it takes all the pressure off. What sort of new perspective will you have if you take, knowing that it's not going to be, there's going to be mistakes, or you might upset somebody, or maybe there's no possibility of even getting your desired result, but you'll never get your desired result anyway unless you try something and then make tweaks along the way. So clarity can be created. That's my biggest takeaway. I'm gonna take that one.
Well, it's a scary place, right? Because depending on, like, most people that I'm working with, most people that are coaching clients are people that accept that there's massive things available, like that humanity is amazing and we're pretty much limitless in what we can accomplish. So they're in that on that journey, like, and once they've started to align themselves with what they want, or at least an area of which they want to explore, by doing that, by taking action towards it, you start to get more clarity and you start to create success. It can't be any other way. What you focus on is what you get. There's no other way in which that becomes that, in which that works. Like if you have a direction, you move towards it, you will move towards that direction. Like it can't be any other way, right? Start taking steps, keep taking steps, taking more steps, you'll get closer. Whatever that is in that situation, you'll move towards it. And so it's just a function of how quickly do you want to get there. If once you've made that realization, it's just how quickly you want to get there. Like you'll figure it out. Like you'll get to the point where you feel certain enough that you'll make a decision. But it's just a feeling, right? So something has to happen in the environment for you to decide now's the right time for it to jump. And so people will say, "I'll know when I'll get there." Right? And then what they're just saying is that there's enough things that they see in the environment which they decide that they'll give themselves permission to take that action. And I'll when it gets there, I'll know. And that is true, but we don't know how long that takes. It could take a month, it could take a week, it could take a day, but it could also take a year or a decade. So you get to decide up front. When I see this, I'm then going to decide to give myself permission that I feel certain enough to take action. That's why coaching is important.
You kind of legged
It
out
saves
there
time.
at the end, but I think we got it. I just a level on top of that, Coach. I think it's also you learn something about yourself, right? Because inevitably, if it's a new decision that you're making or a new avenue of your life that you're taking, trying to achieve a higher level, there's some sort of fear there or hesitation, and that to me, what clarity and execution gives you is that opportunity to learn about yourself, about usually our identity is what holds us back, what we so tightly hold on to, what we think people see us as can be the exact thing that prevents us from taking that action. So just get curious about the feelings that come in with it. Ooh, another job, applying someplace else, that kind of like terrifies me. Well, once you explore that a little bit, you'll find your answer for, if that's the right decision or not for you.
Yeah, it's all in there, right? It's all in a place you don't want to look. And there's nothing to fear except for fear itself.
Ooh, a classic, but a goodie.
Yeah.
Might have to leave it there, Coach. What is your final takeaway?
And the thing I wrote down was progressive execution equals achievement. I think like that's for me a great reminder, the importance, and it's just saving time. That's the most important thing of coaching, right? Like it's the fun. It's the most fun to work with people that are already successful because they're already figured a lot of that stuff out. But and then the game for that for me is just doing that quicker. You're probably going to get there in a year, but what if we can do it in a quarter? Because then what would you be able to? Like, they're not just that. It's like doesn't end there. That's just a start. When you do your year go in a quarter, then what can you do in a year? If you do 4 of those together, like that's going to blow your mind. 4 versions of that in a year. Then once you do that in a year, what's possible at the end of the year after that? When you've just done 4 times what you expected in a year, where are you going to be? What are you going to believe about yourself once you know that that's available for you? And then times that by 5 years.
Talking about compounded interest at this point. Love it. What's possible? What's possible? Go out and get it. I look down the barrel of the other camera. All right, we're out.
All right.
Thanks, Coach.